Oh, voilà. Moyo.
Yes, please.
Moyo.
Yes, please.
Can you tell someone to bring us tissue here, this one?
All right. Mr. Kusan, you need to stretch your feet to come to the front.
Want some? What's up? This mask makes you sweaty.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm trying to wipe it up. And some water won't be bad. I said some water won't be bad. Yes, I see. Have we started the live stream?
Yes, yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Everybody sign. All the actors. Okay. Please, can you do me a team shot of your attendance? Yes.
Good morning, our dear shareholders. On behalf of the Board of Directors of your bank, Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, it is my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you here to our extraordinary general meeting. Although we would have loved to have had many more of our dear shareholders in here with us, it is unfortunate that we continue to face the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, which requires us to adhere with certain protocols. So for that reason, we're only able to permit a limited number of people in the room. So I would like to start by acknowledging all of our many shareholders for their understanding and who have agreed to dial in through the live stream link. We welcome all of you. I crave your indulgence to introduce a few people here in the room today with us before we continue with the business of today. I will start with those here present with me at the table. To my right is our Managing Director, Mr. Emeka Okonkwo. Next to him is our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Joe Mbulu. And to my left here, our dear Company Secretary, Mr. Shomuyiwa Shonubi. Also here in the room are two of your directors who have joined us. Mr. Paul Kokoricha and Mr. Emeka Ogbeche. Joining us by video stream are the rest of your board, and I'll introduce them, starting with Mr. Ian Klein, Mr. Taimo Labib, Mrs. Obafunke Alade Adeyafa, Mr. Richard Burrett, Mrs. Lola Cardoso, Mr. Kenroy Dowers, Mr. Mark Patterson, and Mrs. Aisha Abubakar. I would also like to recognize the presence of our shareholders who have agreed to serve as proxies for today's meeting, starting with Mr. Alex Adio, Mr. Matthew Akinlade, Mr. Nona Awo, Mr. Tunde Badmos, Mrs. Bisi Bakare, Dr. Hamza Woroboki, Mr. Gbenga Idou, Sir Sonny Ngosu, who cannot join us. Oh, there you are. Mr. Boniface Okezie, and Mrs. Oludewa Thorpe. We welcome you and thank you again for attending. I would also like to recognize the presence of our regulators and important stakeholders here present in no particular order. I would like to start with the members of the Statutory Audit Committee, representatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, representatives of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, representatives of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Nigerian Exchange Limited, representatives of the Corporate Affairs Commission, representatives of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, our auditors, Ernst & Young, and of course our registrars, Cardinal Stone. We welcome all of you and thank you again for attendance. I also recognize each and every member of our staff and employees who have worked so hard to put this meeting together. Thank you all. Now I crave your indulgence to make a few remarks before we get started with the business of today. We're all here, as you know. Thank you, our dear shareholder. As you all know, we're here to deal with special business, which is a very special business that has been laid out in the notice we sent. We will get to those in a minute. Permit me to maybe start by reminding us that since we have not yet announced and released our results for the year 2021, today we will not be addressing questions around that. We will have the full opportunity to do so when we have our AGM shortly after we announce our results. So I crave your indulgence and permit us when we put that matter aside today. Now, today's business is really to consider and approve what your board has proposed as a divestment of our bank's entire shareholding and interest in our subsidiary Union Bank PLC. With your permission, I'll refer to it as UBUK to make it easier. And the intention is to divest it to all shareholders pro rata to their existing shareholding in the bank. Importantly, the shareholders are the shareholders that were registered members of the bank as of March 4th, 2022. And it is important that that cutoff is there to facilitate the meeting we're having today. Now, as a backdrop to that, you may all be aware, and everybody has seen and read from the news as well, that our core shareholders, Union Global Partners Limited and Atlas Mare Limited, along with Montaigne Partners, Standard Chartered, and others collectively representing over 89% of our bank, notified the board in December of their intention to divest all of their shareholding to Titan Trust Bank. Now, as you will understand, because we're a publicly listed company, as soon as the board was notified, the board discharged its obligation, which is to notify our regulators that we've been informed of this significant proposed divestment. In accordance with our obligations, the news was also made available to the public immediately. Of course, we would have wished to have had a chance to engage our shareholders beforehand, but this was not possible because we had to comply with all regulations. Now, this divestment remains subject to regulatory approvals and has not yet concluded. But the board continues to work with our management to ensure a successful completion of this transaction. And it comes 10 years after our core investors who are today exiting made an investment in this bank and invested significant amounts of money, which allowed us to transform our dear bank to what it is today. As you know, a decade later, the transformation that we have done has established us as a very strong retail banking proposition with innovative product offerings, with a first-rate management team, with a customer base of over 6 million and growing, with a bank that has a broad-scale transformative program that has led us to reestablish ourselves as a leading brand and a really fierce competitor to contend with in the banking services industry in Nigeria. We should all be proud of what our fantastic workforce that we have assembled here has helped us to achieve over these years, and that has made our bank such an attractive proposition for Titan Bank to woo and secure an agreement with our anchor shareholders. Another important point to make about this iconic bank of ours today is actually this transaction is a history-making transaction in Nigeria for which we should all be proud of. Before now, most banking mergers in the Nigerian banking industry were born out of necessity, where an ailing bank had to be acquired by a bank to save it from failing. That is not the case with this transaction between Union Bank and Titan Bank. Now, with this transaction, we are very confident and hopeful that with the solid foundation that has been laid by our outgoing shareholders, Titan will come in and continue to build it into a stronger franchise that we can continue to be proud of. As I noted earlier, the transaction is in the process of all the necessary regulatory approvals and has not yet closed. However, when Titan becomes the new owner and the transaction has been concluded, we are anticipating that Titan will also, as it is required to do under all regulatory requirements, engage all our shareholders with respect to the regulatory requirement to make an offer, and will engage and answer all questions around that time. I wish to note for the record that we have not received questions before today, even though many of our shareholders engaged us over the last couple of weeks and days, and we want to thank you sincerely because it allowed us to really engage, clarify matters that you before now were not clear on, and get a lot of questions answered. But I encourage today for you to also continue with that trend and ask us many questions, because that is the intention, and at the end of it, we'll be seeking your support for the resolutions that we will be placing before you. You should be aware, onto the business of today, that if I may remind us, about 2 years ago, your board had made a decision with respect to our subsidiary in the United Kingdom, UBUK, that we should enter a process to dispose of it, which would have allowed us to then change our license from an international banking license to a national bank. You may all recall at 2 years ago, we had an AGM where your board had notified the shareholders of this process. It's unfortunate that that process did not conclude because the successful bidder at that time was affected by COVID and unfortunately was unable to conclude that transaction. For that reason, the UBUK divestment that we had planned 2 years ago did not conclude. Now, against that backdrop, when our shareholders entered into the discussions with Titan Trust Bank Titan Trust was aware that this sale process was already underway. And they had made it clear to our shareholders their intention to remain a national bank as well. So they had indicated their preference to not acquire UBUK and encouraged our shareholders to continue with this divestment. Now, in the interest of expediency and to avoid a process where the divestment of our UK subsidiary, which, as you know, has its own separate process because it's in the UK, it is subject to the Central Bank of UK's own process, we, as your board, made a decision that is in the interest of all shareholders to divest that subsidiary so that it is owned directly by the shareholders of UBN. And then this allows for, when the divestment is concluded, for the proceeds to be transferred and paid directly to shareholders. This is a win-win situation for everyone because it allows the transaction with Titan Bank to continue, of course, since they do not wish to acquire the UK subsidiary. And it also allows you shareholders to directly own this asset and partake in the proceeds when we divest it. Now, a note about why your board is proposing and seeking your support to appoint Stanbic IBTC to represent the shareholders under a certain threshold in this context. Now, you will all recall that we have over 450,000 minority shareholders, of which we're very proud of. Now, what this, of course, then means is it creates an administrative challenge and logistical challenge to be able to have 450,000 shareholders individually assessed by the UK authorities as to whether we can own this asset in the UK. Keeping in mind, the UK subsidiary is not listed. So because it is not listed, it is not like here in UBN, where we can go to the stock exchange and buy shares. The UK regulator, the Prudential Regulatory Authority, would have required to also follow their own regulations, which is to assess every owner of a bank which they regulate. But having Stanbic, a well-respected organization who has experience in being trustee successfully, stand in on behalf of our 450,000 shareholders, makes it a lot easier and facilitates an expeditious approval of this transaction. In addition, the majority shareholders who own collectively over 89%, the reason why they're not included also in the Stanbic cutoff is the UK shareholder needs to, the UK regulator needs to have a shareholder of reference. Now, two of our shareholders, Atlas Mara and Union Global Partners, have already been previously approved by the UK regulator when they were making this investment. So then it makes it easier for this transaction to also sail through. So you will be presented in due course today with the opportunity to cast in your votes in support of the resolutions that will facilitate the transfer of this subsidiary to each and every one of you. Before I conclude and open up for the rest of the business of today, I would like to make a few reflections on where we stand today. We are, in my view, at the precipice of great things happening to, in our bank. For those who are wondering, and we've received quite a number of questions around the incoming shareholder, Titan Trust Bank, I encourage all of you who have access to the internet to Google them, but a few comments to make today. It is a Titan Bank, we agree and acknowledge, is a young bank. It's a little over 2 years old. But Titan Bank, actually Titan Trust Bank, is part of a conglomerate that has spent decades in Nigeria, covering industries as varied as agriculture, oil and gas, and have run successful businesses. A brand that you may all be familiar with includes Chivita. And because they have a parent that is not just well established, but also flush with the sufficient liquidity, we are confident that when Titan Trust Bank comes in, they will be able to stand in as a strong shareholder to take our bank into the next era that we can all be proud of. And now, with my many thanks to you, I would like to get on with the business of today.
Chairman, observation. Observation, Chairman.
Yes. I will note that one of our shareholders has requested to make an observation.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Once again, my name is Showcase Boniface.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, having highlighted the need we're here this morning, I want us to agree that the business we're in this morning is what we should be dwelling in.
Correct.
And to trust,
Yes.
You have given us great information, and we also have also heard that new core investors are coming, to buy off those existing. It's a free market, free in, free exit. So let us limit our own question today on that subject agenda that we have in hand. So whatever further discussion on Titan Bank we'll discuss later, maybe at the AGM, if our transaction not be consummated, we can speak about that.
Thank you, Mr. Boniface, and your observations are noted. Shall we continue? Okay. So now, as our shareholders are aware, we were all served and notified of our extraordinary general meeting, and we all received a notice which was published in all the required regulatory papers as well as within the regulatory timelines. I will now call on our secretary, Mr. Muyiwa Shonubi, to make a few comments about the process of service of the notice.
On the 16th of February 2022, the Corporate Affairs Commission approved the convening of the bank's 2022 Extraordinary General Meeting to be held by proxies to consider only special business in accordance with the CAC's approved guidelines thereon and subject to the directives of the federal and Lagos state governments on permissible number of persons at any gathering. The Nigerian Exchange Limited also adopted the CAC's above-mentioned approval. As such, the extraordinary general meeting will therefore be conducted by proxies.
Thank you, Mr. Shonubi. And now, based on the Corporate Affairs Commission's approval and the Nigerian Exchange concurrence for us to convene this extraordinary general meeting by way of proxies, the company registrar received executed proxy forms sent in by our shareholders. I now call on Mr. Adiola, who is a representative of the company registrar, to present the proxy report, which is a disclosure of members in attendance in person or by proxy for the purpose of determining that this meeting is correct. Mr. Adiola.
Good morning, Board Chair. Good morning, Directors of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. Good morning, distinguished shareholders. Good morning, regulators present. For this extraordinary general meeting, we received a total of 589 proxies, representing 25,757,974,887 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, and that translates into 88% of issued share capital of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Mr. Shonubi.
Pursuant to the company's Articles of Association and the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby declare this meeting correct.
Thank you. The meeting having been declared correct, I hereby call on the registrar to conduct the voting by poll and explain the operation of the electronic voting pads that we all have in here to each shareholder for voting, and also the time frame for each voting session. Upon conclusion of each round of voting, the results will be projected on the screen here for the benefit of our shareholders as well as all of those who are joining us virtually. The resolutions being proposed, as you all know, are special business. And this means it requires the full vote of proxies and votes to cross the threshold of 75%. But before the registrar comes up, let me call on our secretary to read the notice, which lays out all the resolutions. Then our registrar will come forward and explain the voting logistics. Mr. Shonobi.
Notice is hereby given that an extraordinary general meeting of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC will be held in the auditorium Stallion Plaza 9th floor, 36 Marina, Lagos on Tuesday, 29th March 2022 at 11 a.m. to transact the following business: special business and special resolutions. 1. To consider and approve the proposed divestment of the company's entire shareholding, direct and indirect interest in its subsidiary, Union Bank UK PLC, to all the shareholders of the company pro rata to their existing shareholding interests in the company, subject to obtaining all required contractual consents and or regulatory approvals. 2. To approve that in furtherance of the divestment, the shares to be held in UB UK, Union Bank UK, by shareholders of the bank or company who each hold less than 0.2546% of the company's issued share capital shall be placed in a trust to be established with Stanbic IBTC Trustees Limited, which shall be the legal shareholder of record on UBUK's register, acting as trustee of the beneficial interests of all the relevant UBN shareholders. 3. To approve that Stanbic IBTC Trustee Limited be and is hereby authorized to, on behalf of shareholders, to enter into and or execute all such agreements and or documents, approve such professional advisors and or other parties as may be required, take all such actions and or steps, and do all such other lawful things as may be necessary for and or incidental to administering the trust in such manner as Stanbic IBTC Trustees Limited, acting reasonably, considers appropriate in its capacity as trustee and or for giving effect to the trust and or divestment. 4. To approve that the board of directors of the company be and is hereby authorized to enter into and execute such agreements and or any other documents, appoint any such professional advisors and or other parties, and take all such other steps and or actions in each case as may be required for and or incidental to implementing the divestment. To approve the amendment of the Articles of Association by inserting the following as Clause 56 Subclause C after Clause 56 Subclause B in compliance with the tenure of independent non-executive directors in the Central Bank of Nigeria's guidelines for the appointment of independent directors. That is, the tenure of office of independent non-executive directors shall be for a maximum period of 2 years or 4 years each, subject to the Central Bank's guidelines for the appointment of independent directors on the tenure of independent non-executive directors. Notes: A. Proxy. In compliance with the public safety directives of the Federal Government of Nigeria on mass and all public gatherings on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines on holding general meetings of public companies using proxies. Attendance at this meeting shall be by way of proxies. Shareholders are advised that the meeting will be streamed via a link that was posted on the bank's website and circulated by the company registrar, and voting at the meeting shall be through the proxies whose names were provided below. Mr. Alex Adio. 2. Mr. Matthew Akinlade. 3. Mr. Nona Awo. 4. Mr. Tunde Badmos. 5. Mrs. Bisi Bakari. 6. Mr. Gbenga Edo. 7. Mrs. Oludewa Thorpe. 8. Sir Sonny Nwosu. 9. Mr. Boniface Okezie. 10. Dr. Hamza Uroboki. A member of the company entitled to attend and vote at the meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote in his or her stead. A proxy need not be a member of the company. A proxy form is supplied with this notice. For completed proxy forms to be valid for the purpose of the meeting, they must be duly stamped by the Commissioner of Stamp Duties and deposited at the office of the Common Registrar, Cardinal Stone Registrars Limited, 335/337 Haba Macaulay Way, Yaba, Lagos, not less than 48 hours before the meeting. The cost of stamping was borne by the bank. Closure of register. The register of members and transfer books of the company were closed from 7th March 2022 to the 11th of March 2022, both days inclusive, for the purpose of updating the register of members. In respect of the divestment recommended by the Board of Directors is approved. If it is approved at this extraordinary general meeting, the divestment shall be to members whose names appear on the register of members at the close of business on the 4th of March 2022. Right of shareholders to ask questions. Pursuant to Rule 19, Sub-Rule 12, Sub-Rule C of the Nigerian Exchange Limited Rule Book, kindly note that it is the right of every shareholder to ask questions at the general meeting and also in writing prior to the meeting. We therefore urge that such questions be submitted to the Company Secretary not later than 2 weeks before the meeting. The EGM will be streamed live to enable shareholders and stakeholders unable to be physically present to view and follow the EGM proceedings. The link for the EGM was made available on the bank's website, www.unionbankng.com, and was also advised by the Common Registrar by order of the board, dated the 14th day of February 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Shonubi. I now call on the registrar to explain the voting process.
Thank you very much, Board Chair. We've distributed the voting parts to all shareholders present. The voting process is going to be real-time and will be displayed on screen. I'll proceed to explain how to use the voting device. If you're voting in favor of a resolution, you select the number 1 button, which is where we have a green mark. After you select that, you press the OK button to send in the vote. If you're voting against a resolution, you select the number 2 button, which has the red mark on it. Once you select that, you press the OK button to send in the vote. If you're abstaining from a resolution, you select the number 3 button, and then you press the OK button. Once you do that, the voting process is going to take about 20 seconds, and it will be displayed on screen with a timer. Thank you, Board Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, I hope the voting process is clear. Does anyone have any questions on that? No, ma'am. Thank you very much. I shall now proceed with the resolutions. They're all special resolutions. Yes. I would want to take those resolutions as read, and with your permission, after each resolution, you will get a chance to ask any questions, then we shall vote. Okay, I now put resolution number 1 to the meeting. Any questions on the resolution? Yes, sir. Can you? Yeah, thank you. And note for those online that our shareholder has an observation.
Yeah, I want to appeal. It may be smoother if we have issues to raise or observation to raise, that they are raised before we go into voting. First, like I said, administratively, it's neater than when you take on each resolution.
Okay, that's a fair feedback. Thank you. Now, the observation made by our shareholder is they would like us to take all questions before we go into voting. Now, of course, it is your meeting, so I'm happy to accommodate that. But the reason why we put each resolution first and get questions is some people may have questions on one but not the other. But I'm happy if everyone is in agreement, we can proceed that way. Okay. So in that case, before we take on the resolutions in turn, I would now like to open the floor for any questions. Keep in mind that the questions you're encouraged to ask are on the business of today to help us better understand what we're going to be voting on. So with that, I will start. Any questions? I see Mr. Boniface. Okay, so let me, to make it faster, after Mr. Ben, we'll go in that order. Please, over to you.
Mr. Chairman, it's just as a matter of emphasis. One of the trustees been appointed by the board. I know the board management have looked thorough to appoint IBT Stanbic as a trustee to hold in confidence among the 40-something shareholders of Union Bank.
Yes.
And I know the management or board cannot do wrong by appointing them. But we also here, and knowing that we have dealt with them in the past and know whom they are, they should not disappoint us. And they should also, as we have trusted them, to handle this on our behalf, they must also say at the right time, before the price start depreciating, we must have value for our money.
Yes.
Because if you have the book entry or the value of those properties, or the assets we want to divest, and you keep on because of greed, that they want to make such money, and we lose, it's not going to be better for us. We must also tell them in text clear that they should not also be mindful of their fees, not the detriment of the shareholders, because that's what they are doing. It's not only limited to IBTC. All issues in Nigeria are not friendly to shareholders. When they line with their own pocket, whatever accrues to shareholders is not their business. So they must also mindful of the fee they collect, so that they don't shortchange us in what we are going to accrue to us. I want to also commend the board that this divestment, the money is coming to shareholder, not plowing back into the business, so that we, the minority, will also benefit our investment we made in UK. It's also clear, I want to commend the board have done very well, that we should limit our service within Nigeria. Because if we're able to capture the whole market, not looking outside the shore, those who are going outside should mind going outside and make their money. But if we're taking the local market, I think it's better for us. That's how it's way to go. I want to commend you for that initiative. That clearly that this board have a vision, in what they are doing. I want to commend you, and I want to also say, lastly, I don't want to take your time, lastly, that the tenure is a 2 term or for 4 years. That's what it means, 2 term or for 4 years. And that's almost a caveat, that it doesn't matter if CBN approve independent director. If you are not performing well, it's also behove on the board to remove you before not allow that to complete that second tenure of terms, So we should also put that clause there. If you are not performing, if you are not giving the best, you can be removed before the tenure complete. That's my advice.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Boniface, for those. I will take one more question, then we will address them. Please, this here, no, in front here. I think he was the second to raise his hand. Thank you.
I'm the chairman, fellow shareholders and regulatory authority present. The question I don't know whether the premises is just for the board to consider. First, the issue of dividend. The incoming Titan Group and those assets, who are you going to pay the dividend of 2021 to?
Thank you very much. Okay, let me address this too, then we'll take more questions because there was a list. So thank you, shareholders. Your questions show you're paying very close attention to your business, to our bank, and we appreciate it. So on the issue of Stanbic IBTC, I'm glad we all recognize that they are well qualified. Indeed, I will tell you, your management team here, and as you know, normally, even the board chair doesn't get involved, but I got involved. We engaged Stanbic very candidly and openly around discussing and heavily negotiating the fees. We structured it so that it is a flat fee, and we structured it so that the entire engagement is for 2 years, because our expectation is we shouldn't be waiting 2 years before this asset is disposed. So we can assure you that your board is actively managing to make sure, to use your words, Mr. Boniface, that nobody cheats us. That will not happen. And Stanbic IBTC is a reputable entity. This is why we chose them, because we will not expect any entity like that to do anything but what is ethical and what is in the best interest of those they represent, given their long history of doing this. And you're right, we intend as a board to sell at the right time, because we must extract value out of our asset as soon as we can, and the sooner we do it, the better for all shareholders. And then on the issue of 2021 dividends, although that relates to our financials, I'll make this comment because I know it's an important question on every shareholder's minds. We are currently actively, as a management team and board, engaging our regulators around the 2021 financials, and includes decisions around dividends, and all this will be announced when we release our results, the outcome of the discussions. But we can assure you, we know you are concerned about the dividends. We as your board are also focused on ensuring that our shareholders continue to enjoy the benefits of their investment. So we will, in due course, announce the outcome of our discussions with the central bank, and we hope our central bank is hearing us. Our shareholders are focused on making sure we don't forget them for the 2021 dividends. So thank you very much. I hope I've addressed those questions. We will take a few more now, please. Yes.
I thank you once again for the privilege of this representation.
Thank you.
And I want to say well done.
Thank you, sir.
You have done so well. And it is evident that you are among the best in that we have in the country. You are transparent enough, and you are fair to all. Kudos to you.
Thank you, sir.
I quickly want to suggest that in case of, I'm sure there are litigations, and in times like this, there could be need for other stakeholders like we in the retail shareholding section to participate or be joined in the issues that is of interest to us. It's possible, it's been done before in other institutions and companies. And on behalf of myself and like-minded, I say we are willing and we are ready.
Thank you.
There's no harm in engaging our regulators in court. We have civil rights, and our rights is as well guaranteed in the institution, in the Constitution, to seek redress where we are wrong. Where companies are afraid to confront the regulators, we as citizens and stakeholders, we have that rights guaranteed to engage them. If in your wisdom you deem it fit that we may be part of some of the suits and legal actions, kindly look at this side. We've done it before, and we can still do it. I won't waste our time. I just say thank you and well done. My name is Tunde Badmus.
Thank you so much, Mr. Badmus. Please go ahead here.
Thank you, Madam. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, Regulatory Authorities present, and my co-shareholders. Good morning. My name is Mrs. Bisi Bakari. I'm going to be very brief. First and foremost, Mr. Chairman, I want to use this opportunity to really commend the entire board of Union Bank. Why am I commending them? Because they are not self-centered. You have the mind of minority shareholders. The reason why I'm saying that, we know what happened to one of the first big bank in Nigeria. because of their self-centered greediness, we minority shareholders will lose everything. Of course, if Titan approach you, or investors from you, from the co-investors, former co-investors in Union Bank, that we want to sell shares to Titan, the board can tell them that even out of all the investors, is it Titan Bank that is just 2 years you want to sell our bank? No. But while doing that, the next thing, CBN will come and take over Union Bank. In fact, I'm using this opportunity to thank the entire board of Union Bank for being proactive on this. And I pray that Almighty God will continue to protect you all. Secondly, I know Titan too, they too will be online. That's why I want to say this. I want to also use this opportunity to appeal to Titan, the investors, that they should please retain Union Bank name. I'm appealing to them. Of course, we don't have a say. We've sold it, we've sold it. Because when you born a baby, nobody can decide to you the name you want to name your baby. No doubt about it. But because of the goodwill, because of the name of Union Bank, they should please retain Union Bank. I'm just appealing to them. Thirdly, of course, myself and shareholders of like minds, we are going to support all the resolutions today. We are in support of it, and it's going to be a successful one. Thank you once again for the opportunity given to me.
Thank you very much. We'll take one more question. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The name Adio is Adio A. Alex. I thank you for this opportunity to stand in for other shareholders as proxy. And I still want to commend you, madam. And I'm suggesting as well that we just take whatever few questions quickly here, then we just go to pass the resolutions. I thank you for this golden opportunity and the fact that you have nurtured this bank to become a beautiful bride, that we have something good to sell. And that is why it's going to be one of the smoothest transactions, if not the best in Nigeria, as at the time we close this deal. So we thank you for that. Titan Trust Bank, Titan itself means greatness, big, strong, and godly might. So it's not just about the 2 years old or whatever. And when you look at their antecedent, which is in the public domain, you can see that we have reliable people there that have been doing a lot of things. And I see them bringing innovation to this bank. If they have the magic wand in the oil sector, in agriculture, and diverse areas, coming here, they're going to do better than that, and shareholders will surely get something good out of it. So every other thing there is clear, but my simple question is this. That is the 5 about the executive directors and other. I want to believe this is just playing according to the rule. That is, there is playing according to the rule of the regulators. I believe so, or is this something that is special to this bank alone? Thank you, God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Let me just quickly take these 3 sets of questions, and then we will take more. So first of all, let me start by thanking you for that fantastic vote of confidence. As your board, there's no better feedback than when our shareholders convey how they feel about us. So we thank you. Now, we very much appreciate your offer to support the bank in litigation, because truly there's no better ambassador for any bank than those that are at the grassroots engaging. So we encourage you, for those of you who know people that are trying to cause us trouble, let them understand that we are a good bank. We are not afraid to fight, but we don't like to fight. Yeah? So let them know that, you know, we're doing good things, and when we need the support, we're very happy to hear. We can call on you, and we know we have an army of 450,000, and we look forward to continuing to rely on your support. Mrs. Bakare, we note and thank you very much for your comments as well. On the question around whether Titan Trust Bank will retain Union Bank name, you've raised a valid and very important question. As you can imagine, all of us hold it so dear to our hearts, this storied and iconic institution that is over 100 years old. And as your chair, when our shareholders entered into this transaction with Titan Trust, I spent, and I have continued to spend good time with the principals of Titan Bank, because it was important for us to understand their vision, to understand their plans, to understand how they're thinking about things going forward, and they've been engaging us. One area that they have also conveyed their own thinking is that they recognize the importance of the Union Bank name. And in fact, they have said that there's no way that they will not in one way or the other keep that Union Bank name when they come and they take over. So we look forward to continuing to see this name continuing to the next generation. And then finally, Mr. Alex, we thank you. You made other comments around Titan, which we agree with you on. The board, indeed, and our shareholders, most importantly, will not be selling to people they don't consider reliable. So clearly, they have the interest too, and they have done it, and your board concurs with you. On your specific question on why we are introducing resolution number 5, it's a valid one. So as you know, we definitely, those of you who have closely kept close tabs on our bank and read our articles, etc., you know we have tenures already in our articles of association and memorandum. However, you may also be aware that recently our central bank released new corporate governance regulations, which applies to all banks. And in there, they have new tenure requirements for independent non-executive directors. And of course, since we're regulated by the central bank, we're required to comply with that new requirement. So this resolution is simply intended to align our internal requirements with what the central bank requirement is, and we will enshrine it in our memorandum. That's essentially what it is, nothing more. All right, thank you. We will take a few more questions, and I would like to propose we go to vote, okay? And then, thank you. Good morning.
Chairman, members of our board, distinguished shareholders, and our staff and regulators, I say good morning. My name is Oludewa Thorpe. I am actually quite happy to be here and it's actually a privilege, so I thank the bank for inviting me as one of the proxies. It's one of the privileges to be invited. I commend our chairman because she's actually a man, and she's doing well. I kind of regret that we may not have her going forward for a long time, considering that the core investors would want to bring in somebody to represent them. So I wish they can retain you because you deserve it and you have done well. I congratulate the board for making a beautiful bride out of our bank, that a suitor saw us and came for us. And if we had not been beautiful, if we had not been resourceful, we would not have gotten that suitor. Yeah. And the suitor is actually well suited to come on board. Mm-hmm. And I agree with the chairman too that Titan Trust Bank and the group that it represents will take this bank to greater height. So we look forward to that time when it will be. I'm confident. I have no doubt about it at all. They might be small now, but I think that a time will come when we shall return to that big, strong, reliable that used to be our slogan. I hope we shall return to it very soon. One question that agitates my mind is the fact that the core investors have 89%, and the balance by the small one investors like us. Now, when it means that the 20% free float that is not there. Mm-hmm. With this acquisition, is maybe the reorganization of the shareholding, perhaps. Are we going to see a time when this free float will come? Because that is what we small-time investors rely on to buy and sell. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take a few more questions, 2 more. Front. And first Mr. Nona and then Mr. Hamza.
Thank you. The chair, other members of the board, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I've heard a few things that I thought we should also reflect on. The first one that was intriguing for me is that I heard one of us say you don't give birth to a child and then somebody else will come and name it. But if that child was born on Friday, or he was born on the way to the market, in our tradition, we know that that child already has a name. So that child has been named before. So I think that's one of the things that we need to tell the new buyer, should they get, this child was named by circumstance, so they don't, okay. The second one that I also think that we need to reflect on, and reflect deeply on as shareholders, is that nobody will protect you if you don't protect yourself. And this is a classical case of what we are seeing. Because whether we want it or not, this transaction is one that is protecting only about 1/4% of the size of Union Bank. We may not be this lucky because we've never been this lucky. But it's also important at this junction that we should call the attention of our regulators to their inadequacies in regulation. Because with poor regulation, you build a road and that road will be destroyed by somebody else. And it's important that should there be need, even some of the transactions before now, because some of us have seen what was done in the consolidation era. Quite a number of persons or minority shareholders were abused. I'm happy that Badmus said he will be ready to go to court. I'm also told that his parachute is very expensive now, given the exchange rate. So we'll have enough money to make if we sell those parachutes and then pursue our cases. But it's important that the minorities must begin to understand that they have a lot of work to do. Nobody is going to protect you if you haven't protected yourself. Because the way we are running, minorities in the country are running like a building that has window space without window cover. Even the roof is open. The door is open. Anybody can come in there. And what you end up becoming is that the chances are high if we don't protect ourselves, we get killed in this business called the capital market. So once again, I understand CBN is here. CBN hasn't done enough. SEC is here. Total failure. So let us begin as minority shareholders, engage our regulators because we must make sure that they don't kill us. Don't forget that they won't die because they live on subvention. Okay? They will live on subvention. But we live on the benefit of our investment. So again and again, both those of us who are here and those of us who are watching virtually, it's important that the attitude of minorities in this business called the capital market need a total change of attitude. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take another question from in front here.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, board members. May I also stand on the already established protocol? Chairman, thank you for inviting us to be part of history. History is being made, and as with all human endeavor, only change is constant. And today we are witnessing change in this iconic institution, and hopefully it's going to be a change for the better. This is an institution that has been there for as long as any one of us here remembers. It has touched lives, it has empowered businesses. It's in fact part of the history of Nigeria. To even contemplate that the name will be changed becomes unthinkable to some of us that have always woken up to see a union bank. It's changing hands. We welcome the suitors, and I'm confident that these new suitors would want to improve upon what they are putting their money to buy. And I'm sure we'll see the required positive change because they have a pedigree, they've done it in other sectors, and they are coming into a very, very serious business. And I'm sure it means also serious money. They should note that they are taking an institution that belongs to all Nigerians and that have benefited Nigeria and Nigerians immensely. And the expectation is that these benefits should continue to come to everyone. Madam, we as minority shareholders, who are called retail shareholders, want to commend the board for being transparent in this process, for your leadership, for carrying us along and bringing us together to approve these resolutions for the divestment separately or sale of Union Bank UK. We support all the resolutions. We also understand that it is part of regulation that you redraft the tenure for non-executive directors to a period of 4 years, maximum of 2 terms. We support that because it is mandated by regulators. Therefore, the minority shareholders that we represent, or the retail shareholders, are all behind you in what you do.
Thank you.
And we do pray that as you move along this tedious journey of disengagement and re-engagement, you always remember that we are relying on you, on your protection of our interests, because we will not be at those meetings. But the board is always there for us, and we believe from what we have done over the years, you'll do that for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you have one more question? Okay. Thank you. I think we will conclude the questions on those. So let me go back, starting with Mrs. Thorpe. Your comments are well noted. You had one particular one around the free float. And now, of course, I think we're all aware that even up till now, the free float requirement was something we were continuing to work on as a board, but we had been fortunate to have the understanding of the regulators who were given what we would call a forbearance or waiver to allow us to meet the free float. Now, with this incoming transaction, of course, we are not Titan Bank here, so we can't speak for them. But we do know that this is something that they will obviously be paying attention to in terms of the future of the bank. And most importantly, like I noted before, there are some regulatory requirements also on an incoming shareholder who acquires a significant stake. So in this case, for example, where I think for those who are lawyers here, you know that there's a regulation that says anyone who acquires more than 30% in a publicly listed company has to make an offer to all the other shareholders. In this case, Titan Trust will be acquiring more than the 30%, so they will be required to launch this offer to all shareholders. They, of course, cannot do it yet because the transaction with the main shareholders has not closed. So when that transaction closes, Titan will, in due course, and I understand they plan to do it almost immediately, will start engaging everyone, and then you can freely and openly engage them around questions on the free float. I know they will make available to all shareholders options available to you in making your decision as to whether to accept the offer or not. And so I will encourage shareholders that in that time to please feel free to engage the folks at Titan when they come in. And I know they'll be also engaging and open with you around those matters. Now, thank you, Mr. Nona. All your points are well noted. I think all I can comment on is you clearly are highlighting the need for regulators to continue to be more closely focused on some of the issues you raised. And since they're all in this room today, I know that they're all paying attention like all stakeholders normally will. And we look forward, as usual, to continue to engage our regulators, whose role is to ensure stability, well, when we focus on the banking industry of the industry, and to implement things that will ensure protection of everyone involved. So regulators, I know you're listening. I will leave it to you. When our shareholders engage you more directly around these issues, I know you can more eloquently speak on your behalf on some of the things you're doing to protect minorities. And then finally, to Mr. Hamza, we must thank you for all your comments. It is so obvious based on some of the questions that have come here. There's a recurring theme. The name Union Bank is important. It is important to our shareholders. It is important to us as a board and management. And I know it's important to Nigeria. I can tell you, based on my engagement with the principals at Titan Trust Bank, it is also important to them. So let's look forward to continuing to seeing this iconic name for generations to come. This name was here before us, and by God's grace, it will also outlive us. Okay, so I will give one final. I don't think there are any more questions. With your indulgence, I would like to close the Q&A session now and maybe just move straight to our consideration of the 5 resolutions. I again crave your indulgence for us not to have to read the resolutions. We shall take them as read. Are you in agreement? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so what I'll just do is mention them by number. Okay, so I now put resolution 1 to the meeting. May I have someone to second that motion? Are we taking notes, Muyo?
My name is Mrs. Bakari.
Thank you, Mrs. Bakari. Okay, having the motion seconded, I now hereby put the resolution to a vote. Our registrars, please come forward to help us through this process. The voting period will be 20 seconds. I will pause to allow the voting to continue.
Thank you, Board Chair. For the special resolution 1, voting starts now.
Okay, that concludes the voting process for Special Resolution 1. Registrar, please announce the results of the vote.
Thank you, Board Chair. For Special Resolution 1, we have a total of 100% of total vote cast votes in favor of the resolution for 25,770,872,729 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC.
Thank you. I hereby declare that the resolution has been carried by the required 3/4 of the majority votes since we've secured 100%. Thank you, shareholders. I now put special resolution number 2 to the shareholders for a vote. Again, yes, I think Mr. Boniface, you were up earlier, so can I have a second?
I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. Registrar, please proceed with the vote. The voting period, again, for this one will be 20 seconds.
Thank you, Board Chair. For Special Resolution 2, voting starts now.
Thank you. The voting has concluded. Registrar, please announce the results.
For Special Resolution 2, we have a total of 99.99% of total vote cast votes in favor of the resolution for 25,770,669,223 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. We also have 631 units of shares vote against the resolution.
Thank you. With 99.99% of the votes cast, I hereby declare that the resolution has been carried. I now put special resolution number 3 to the members for a vote. May I have a second motion? Baba, I think Baba was first, yes. Please, can we have the mic? Thank you, Mr. Ido. Baba Ido, thank you. Registrar, please proceed. We shall have 20 seconds for the vote.
For special resolution 3, voting starts now.
The voting process has been concluded. I now ask Registrar to please announce the result.
For special resolution 3, we have a total of 99.99% of total vote cast vote in favor of the resolution for 25,770,672,098 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. We also have 631 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC abstain from the voting process.
Thank you. With 99.99% of the votes cast, I hereby declare that special resolution has been duly carried. I now put special resolution number 4 to the meeting for consideration. Would someone please second? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, go ahead, please. Yes.
My name is Matthew Akelade. I second that motion.
Thank you. Registrar, please proceed with the voting process. We will have 20 seconds to vote.
For special resolution 4, voting starts now.
Thank you. Registrar, please announce the results.
Thank you, Board Chair. For special resolution 4, we have a total of 99.99% of total vote cast votes in favor of the resolution for 25,770,634,592 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. We also have 37,326 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC vote against the resolution.
Thank you. With 99.99% of the votes cast in favor, I hereby declare that the resolution has been carried. I now put to the meeting the final special resolution for today for consideration. Can I have Mr. Badmo, sorry.
Thank you. I hereby second that motion.
Thank you. I now put the resolution to the meeting and request the registrar to conduct the voting process. We will have 20 seconds.
Thank you, Board Chair. For special resolution 5, voting starts now.
Thank you. The voting process has concluded. I now ask the registrar to please announce the results.
Thank you, Board Chair. For special resolution 5, we have a total of 99.99% of total vote cast votes in favor of the resolution for 25,770,631,693 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. We also have 37,326 units of shares of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC abstain from the voting process.
Thank you. With 99.99% of the votes in favor, I hereby declare that special resolution number 5 has been duly carried. Dear shareholders, this concludes all the items on the agenda for today, our extraordinary general meeting of our shareholders. I shall now open for any other business. I imagine there isn't. Okay, with that, distinguished shareholders, our regulators present, our directors. Yes. As well as all of our shareholders who have joined us through the YouTube link, shareholders and the public and everyone that has taken the time to join us. We are really grateful and thankful for your understanding and for your engagement today. Yes. And as I would like at this point to close it, I want to first of all just acknowledge all of you and thank you all for your continued support. which we will continue to rely on. I wish you all safe journey back home. To those of you who traveled from far, we appreciate you. May God take you back safely. Thank you, and I now hereby declare the meeting closed.